3 years ago, my brother pushed me so hard I hit the kitchen counter and broke 3 ribs. But the pain I remember most wasn't physical. It was lying on the floor gasping for air and hearing my mother say, "Don't overreact." Kyle didn't mean it. And my father adding, "Let's not make this a family scandal. I'm a doctor. I knew my ribs were broken the second I hit the granite. But that night, I drove myself to the clinic alone in pain and heartbroken. That moment changed me. You grow up thinking your family will protect you. But what happens when they protect your abuser instead? What happens when silence is more important than your safety? Today, I can breathe again. But every breath reminds me of what it cost me to get here. I tell this story not because I want pity. I tell it because someone out there needs to hear it. To know they're not crazy, not dramatic, not alone. I was all of those things once. And then one person refused to look the other way. That's where my story begins. I didn't grow up in a broken home. At least not on the outside. People in Oak Hollow used to call us the Matthews. Like that meant something solid, respected, safe. My father ran a real estate firm. My mother organized every charity gala in town. And my brother Eric, he was always the golden boy. We lived in a white colonial house with perfect hedges, family dinners, church on Sundays, Christmas cards with matching sweaters and forced smiles. But behind those walls, I was walking on eggshells before I even knew what that meant. Eric had a temper, not the screaming kind, the snap silently and break your doll kind. When we were kids, he shattered 3 of them porcelain ones my grandmother gave me. My parents just replaced them. Told me boys act out. He'll grow out of it. But he didn't grow out of it. He grew louder, meaner, sharper. The words cut deeper than anything he ever threw. When I got straight A's, I heard "good job." When Eric scraped by with a C+, they threw a dinner party. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted fairness. But fairness was never part of our family plan. I tried to be the daughter they could be proud of. Quiet, helpful, always polite. When I wanted to study art, my father scoffed. "Painting doesn't pay the bills. Be practical." So I buried my sketchbooks in a drawer, applied to medical school, smiled through it all. Every choice I made, every sacrifice was for their approval. But it never felt like enough. Eric, on the other hand, was allowed to stumble, to fail, to throw fits. He was just under pressure. When he missed deadlines at work, my father stepped in and blamed his assistant. When I showed signs of burnout, they asked me if I was too emotional for medicine. Still, I told myself they loved me. Just not the same way. I thought maybe if I worked hard enough, if I stayed close, helped out, showed up, they'd finally see me. So when a job offer came in Oak Hollow, I said yes. Loan forgiveness helped. But the truth, part of me still wanted to believe we could be a family again. That maybe I'd earned my place this time. That maybe things could be different now. Moving back to Oak Hollow felt strange. Familiar streets, same grocery store, but I wasn't the same girl who left. I had a degree, a job, a title, but inside, I was still chasing something, still hoping they'd say, "We're proud of you." 3 months and the signs were clear. Nothing had changed. At my welcome dinner, Eric dominated the conversation. Promotion stories, sales numbers, big client wins. When I tried to share a case from my residency, my mother interrupted. "Have you met any nice men in Chicago?" I smiled, pretended not to notice. Eric had always been their center. We just orbited around him. Still, I wanted things to feel normal. So when they planned a party to celebrate Eric's promotion, I offered to help. Set the table, made the salad, even bought him a bottle of his favorite whiskey, even though I was stretching my budget thin that month. I kept telling myself, this time it'll be different. We're adults now. Maybe they'll treat me like one. I wanted to believe we were just a regular family with a rough past, not a broken system I kept trying to fix. That night started out like any other family dinner. Linen napkins, roast beef, candles flickering. My mother had decorated the dining room with gold banners that read, "Congratulations, Eric." My father poured wine. Eric was already on his second glass of whiskey. He was loud, confident, talking about deals, clients, golf with the mayor. I nodded along, tried to keep the peace. When it was my turn to speak, I mentioned a case I'd handled last month. My mother cut in. Is it serious with anyone yet, dear? Eric laughed. Probably too busy saving the world. I smiled, said nothing. Then he brought up Megan, his girlfriend. They were moving in together next month. I said, she mentioned she's excited about the lake house this summer. His eyes changed. When did she talk to you last week? Grocery store. Just a quick chat. I kept my voice light, but he leaned in. She needs to stop talking about my family behind my back. The table went quiet. My mother reached for her wine. My father cleared his throat. I didn't know it yet, but the night had already started to crack. I tried to calm him down, told him Megan didn't say anything bad. Just small talk. That was all. But Eric was already slipping. The whiskey had dulled his filter. His voice got sharper. She called our family intense. Like hers is so perfect, drunks and thieves, my mother whispered. Let's not do this now. But he wasn't listening. He turned to me. Always so perfect, aren't you, Linda the doctor? The saint, the good daughter. I almost laughed. The irony was too much. But I didn't. I said, you're misunderstanding. He slammed his glass down. Whiskey spilled across the white tablecloth. My mother flinched. My father said, son, let's dial it back. Eric stood up fast, chair scraping the hardwood. I need some air, he stormed out. The room stayed frozen. Then my mother said softly, let's serve dessert. I offered to clear the plates, used it as an excuse. Part of me hoped I could calm him. Part of me was just trying to breathe. But I didn't know that walking into that kitchen would change everything. He was in the kitchen, back turned, pouring another glass. Eric, I said quietly, I didn't mean to upset you. He didn't look at me, just said, you always do this. I set the plates down, careful not to make a sound. You act innocent, but you're always digging, always judging. That's not true, I said. I like Megan. I wasn't stay out of my relationship. I felt something rising in me, a mix of anger and sadness. Why would I ever want to hurt you? I asked. He turned, fast, his eyes red, voice tight. Because you've always been jealous. Dad's company, mom's attention. You can't stand that. I'm the one they love. I laughed. Couldn't help it. It wasn't funny, but it was insane. That laugh was the trigger. His face twisted. Don't you dare laugh at me. Then he shoved me, hard. I hit the counter, sharp edge right below my ribs. Air shot from my lungs. Pain exploded through my chest, and everything after that was just blur and silence. I collapsed onto the floor, couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. Every inhale felt like knives, footsteps, my mother's scream, my father's voice sharp panicked. What happened? Eric answered first. She fell. I didn't touch her. I tried to talk. Nothing came out but a dry gasp. My mother dropped to her knees beside me. Honey, can you stand? I shook my head. Tears burning. My father pulled Eric back, hissed something I couldn't hear. Eric said again, she's faking. She tripped. It's nothing. With help, I sat up. The movement made me cry out. The pain was blinding. He pushed me, I whispered. I hit the counter. My mother's face flickered. Worry then? Something colder. I'm sure it was an accident, she said softly. He didn't mean it, but he had. And it wasn't the first time. This time it was just worse. I think I need a hospital, I managed. It hurts to breathe. My father stepped forward. Let's not overreact. Take some ibuprofen. We'll see how you feel tomorrow. I stared at him. He saw a scandal. I was sitting there broken and he saw inconvenience. I'm a doctor, I said. I know what broken ribs feel like. I need to go now. My mother offered to drive me. I declined. I didn't want to sit beside her, not after she defended him. Again, every step to the door was agony. Each breath, sharp, shallow tearing. My father helped me stand, his face tight, unreadable. Disagreements happen, he said under his breath. Let's not turn this into something it's not. I didn't answer. I couldn't. In my car, hands trembling, I gripped the wheel, drove through stop signs I barely saw. Just wanted to get home, to be alone, to think. I should have gone straight to the ER, but I didn't want to explain. Not yet. At home, I took the strongest painkillers I had, propped myself in a chair, too afraid to lie down. Each time I drifted off, I jolted awake in pain. That night was long and cold. Not because of the injury, but because I knew deep in my gut I was no longer part of that family. Maybe I never really had been. By morning, the bruising had deepened, dark purple spreading across my side. I couldn't lift my arm, could barely move at all. Then my phone rang. My mother. I let it go to voicemail. She called again 10 minutes later. This time I picked up. "How are you feeling, sweetheart?" Her voice was light. Too light. "Not good," I said. "I'm in a lot of pain. I think it's serious." She paused. Then, "These things always feel worse the next day. Take some Advil. Ice it." I cut her off. "Mom, I think my ribs are broken. Eric seriously hurt me." Silence. When she spoke again, her tone had changed. Gentle, careful. "Let's not blow this out of proportion. Kyle feels terrible. He's just overwhelmed. Has he said that I asked?" Already knowing the answer, she sighed. "He will, but right now we need to move past this." I gripped the phone tighter. "Mom, I can't breathe without it hurting." Her reply came fast. "If it were really that bad, you'd have gone to the hospital last night." That's when I knew she wasn't calling to check on me. She was calling to silence me. "I'm going to the doctor," I said. Firm, quiet, final. She didn't like that. "Stephanie, think about the consequences." "Consequences," I repeated the word slowly. "For who? Your father's business. Kyle's future. Do you really want to destroy that over this?" I held the phone tighter. My ribs ached just sitting still. "He assaulted me, Mom. You're asking me not to seek medical help because it might look bad?" She sighed, long, heavy. "You're being emotional. It was an accident. He didn't mean to hurt you, but he did." Another pause. Then her voice dropped cold, direct. "If you go through with this, there will be fallout. People will talk. You could ruin everything." That's when I realized they weren't afraid he hurt me. They were afraid someone might find out. My pain wasn't the problem. It was the evidence. I ended the call without saying goodbye. For the first time in my life, I felt something shift. I was done protecting people who never protected me. The phone rang again. This time it was my father. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something in me wanted to hear his voice. "Stephanie." He began calm but distant. "Your mother says you're upset. Let's not escalate this." I didn't answer. He continued. "Well, broken ribs or not, there's not much they can do. They'll tell you to rest. Take painkillers. You're already doing that." "I need an x-ray," I said. "There could be displacement risk to my lungs." Another pause. Then the real question. "Gio, what exactly are you planning to tell them about how it happened?" There it was. Not concern, not care, just strategy. I replied simply, "The truth." His voice changed. "Whoa, think very carefully. Kyle has worked hard. One mistake shouldn't ruin his life." I almost laughed. "So, his future matters, but my broken ribs don't." He snapped. "Don't twist my words. We're thinking about the bigger picture." I looked down at the bruises on my side. "Yeah," I said quietly. "So am I." An hour later, my phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "Sending you a little something. Hope you feel better. Love you." By noon it arrived. A delivery person at my door holding a large gift basket, wrapped in ribbons and cellophane. Inside, painkillers, a heating pad, lavender bath salts, my favorite chocolates, and a card. "Rest and recover. Family always comes first." Mom and Dad. I stared at it. Everything looked so thoughtful, so kind, so wrong. They hadn't called to ask how I really felt. No apology, no questions, just this. A box of distractions, wrapped in guilt. I placed it on the kitchen table, unopened, untouched. It didn't feel like love, it felt like hush money. A way to say, "Here, take this and stay quiet." I sat down in silence, every breath still sharp, not from the ribs, but from the truth that hurt even more. They wanted me to heal, but only if no one else had to know why I was hurting in the first place. The calls kept coming. My mother every hour, always with the same gentle tone, always circling back to the same message. Let's keep this within the family. There's no need to make it bigger than it was. He's your brother, Linda. My father called twice. Less gentle, more direct. Family loyalty matters. You're letting emotions cloud your judgment. By late afternoon, my phone buzzed again. Eric. I hesitated, then answered. His voice was flat. Mom said I should call. Not, I'm sorry. Not, are you okay? Just instructions. Things got out of hand, he said. I had a lot to drink. You broke my ribs, Eric, he scoffed. I barely pushed you. You probably bruised something when you fell. I didn't fall. You shoved me into the counter. A pause. Whatever. I'm calling to smooth things over. Mom and Dad are freaking out. There it was. No guilt, no care, just damage control. And underneath it all, a threat barely disguised. You're going to regret it if you blow this up. I hung up. Hands shaking, not just from pain, but from the weight of everything unsaid. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I called Melanie. She'd been my closest friend in high school. We drifted, life moved on, but I knew she'd pick up. She did. Linda, what's wrong? I told her everything, not holding back, not softening the truth. There was no hesitation in her voice. That's awful. Do you want me to take you to the hospital? I have an appointment later, I said. Dr. Hayes squeezed me in. Text me the time. I'm coming with you. No arguments. I almost said no, but I didn't, because for the first time in days, someone wasn't trying to silence me. Someone was choosing to stand beside me, and afterward Melanie added, "You're staying at my place. You shouldn't be alone right now." I felt my throat tighten, tears threatening, not from fear, but from relief. Someone believed me, and that was enough to keep going. By the time Melanie picked me up, the pain had worsened. Every breath sharp, every bump in the road unbearable. We didn't talk much in the car. She just kept a hand near mine, steady, quiet, present. The clinic sat on the edge of town, far enough that no one from my parents' circle would see me. Inside, I filled out the forms. Paused when I reached the question, how did the injury occur? I left it blank. Minutes later, a nurse called my name, led me to a small room with white walls and paper-thin silence. Then Dr. Laura Hayes walked in. Early 50s, calm eyes, firm voice, Linda Matthews. She said, "I've heard good things. Sorry we're meeting like this." I nodded, managed a tight smile. "Please, just call me Linda." She glanced at the chart. Chest pain, trouble breathing. "Can you tell me what happened?" I froze. Years of conditioning, of keeping secrets, protecting appearances, clamped down on my throat. Then quietly, I said the truth out loud. I was pushed. I hit the counter. My brother did it. Dr. Hayes didn't flinch, didn't rush me, just nodded slowly, then said, "Let's take care of your pain first, then we'll talk more." Her hands were steady, her tone professional but warm. She listened to my lungs, gently pressed along my side. I winced. "There's significant bruising," she noted. "I want x-rays. You may have multiple fractures." I nodded, couldn't speak, could barely hold eye contact, but something inside me was starting to shift, a tiny crack of light in a wall I'd built too high for too long. The x-rays didn't lie. 3 broken ribs, one displaced dangerously close to my lung. When she came back into the room, her expression had changed. Softer, but serious. "Linda," she said, "these injuries are significant. And based on what you've told me, this isn't just a medical issue, it's a legal one too." I felt my stomach drop. Not from fear of him, but fear of what came next. Because saying it to her was one thing. Saying it to the world, that was something else entirely. "This is domestic violence," Dr. Hayes said, "and I'm a mandatory reporter." The words hit harder than I expected. Not because I didn't know, but because hearing them out loud made it real. "What does that mean?" I asked, voice small. "It means I have to report it to the police. By law." Panic bloomed in my chest. Not fear of strangers, but fear of my own family. "You can't. My parents, they'll..." I don't know what they'll do." She looked at me for a long moment, then quietly said, "What would you tell a patient in your shoes?" I looked down, fingers trembling in my lap. I'd tell her to protect herself, to speak the truth. "Exactly," she said. "You're not just a doctor, you're a person, and what happened to you wasn't okay." My throat tightened. Tears burned, but they didn't fall, because something stronger than fear was growing inside me. Not anger, not even pain, clarity, and the quiet beginning of a choice. This time, I would not stay silent. The police came later that afternoon. 2 officers, one younger, one older, both respectful, both careful with their questions. Melanie stayed with me the whole time. She didn't speak for me, just sat close. Her presence was enough. I told them everything, not all at once, but piece by piece. The dinner, the kitchen, the shove, the pain, the silence that followed. They asked if this had happened before. I hesitated, then nodded. "Not like this," I said, "but yes, there were other times, other kinds of harm." They wrote it all down, no judgment, just quiet pens scratching truth onto paper. One officer asked gently, "Do you want to press charges?" I looked at him, at Melanie, at the bruises on my ribs now fading yellow at the edges. Then I said, "Yes, I do." The moment the words left my mouth, my hands started shaking. But not from regret, not from fear, from the weight of finally putting my name on something they couldn't erase. The news spread faster than I expected. By morning, I had 3 missed calls from my father, 2 from my mother, and 1 from a number I didn't recognize. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I sat in Melanie's kitchen, holding a warm mug I couldn't drink from watching steam rise as my phone kept buzzing. Then the text started. "How could you do this to your own family? You're blowing one mistake out of proportion. You're ruining Kyle's life. Not once are you okay? What do you need? We're sorry. Just guilt, blame, shame, wrapped in false concern." Later that afternoon, a family friend messaged me, said my parents had told people I'd had a stress-related episode, that I'd overreacted after a minor disagreement. I didn't reply. I just looked at Melanie and said, "They're rewriting the story already." She reached for my hand, then "Write yours louder." And for the first time, I knew I would. That evening, my phone rang again, another unknown number. I almost ignored it. But something told me to answer. It was Dr. Hayes. Her voice was steady but warm. "Linda, I just wanted to check on you after everything today." I exhaled. Didn't realize I'd been holding my breath. "Thank you. I'm okay, or getting there." She paused, then said something I didn't expect. "I know what it feels like, to have a family that chooses silence over truth." I didn't respond at first, just let her words settle. "My father broke my wrist when I was 16, she continued. "My mother said I tripped, told the neighbors it was a dance accident." I closed my eyes. "How did you get out?" I asked. "I became a doctor," she said, "and promised myself I'd believe every woman who walked in afraid to tell the truth." A pause. Then softly, "You did the right thing, Linda, even if they never say it, even if it costs you everything." And in that moment, I didn't feel alone anymore. After we hung up, I sat in silence. No TV, no music, just the hum of the fridge and the ache in my chest. But it was different now. Not the sharp pain of injury, something steadier, stronger. Melanie came in with a blanket, wrapped it around my shoulders without a word. We didn't need to talk. I looked down at my hands. They weren't trembling anymore. For days I had felt like I was falling through memories, through guilt, through the weight of a family that chose image over love. But now I wasn't falling. I was standing, bruised, but upright. Melanie said, "You don't have to figure everything out tonight." I nodded, but deep down I already knew I couldn't go back. Not to that house. Not to those dinners. Not to being the one who stayed silent so everyone else could stay comfortable. Something had broken open in me, and for the first time, I wasn't trying to fix it. The next morning, I packed a small bag, just essentials, scrubs, a notebook, my sketchbook I hadn't touched in years. Melanie watched me quietly, didn't ask why, because she knew. This wasn't just about clothes, it was a line between who I had been and who I was choosing to be. My phone buzzed again, this time a message from my father. We need to talk, face to face. Family things should stay in the family. I didn't respond. Not out of anger, out of clarity. I wasn't interested in quiet meetings behind closed doors. Truth doesn't live there. Instead, I called my manager at the clinic, asked to adjust my shifts, said I needed space, time to recover. She understood. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe without apology. That afternoon, I opened my sketchbook, flipped past empty pages, chose a blank one, and drew not to escape, but to remember. Not what hurt, but what survived. 2 days later, they showed up. No warning, just a knock at Melanie's door. I froze. She peeked through the window, then turned to me. It's your parents. I stood still, heart pounding, not from fear, from knowing this moment would come. Melanie opened the door, stepped aside without a word. My mother walked in first. Perfect hair, tight smile. My father followed, hands in pockets, posture firm. Linda, my mother said, we're here because we love you. I didn't answer. She glanced around the small apartment, eyes pausing on the open sketchbook, then settling back on me. All of this, has gone too far, she said. My father stepped closer. We understand you're hurting, but involving the police was unnecessary. 3 broken ribs, I replied. Is that not enough? Silence. My mother looked down, then said softly, he's still your brother. I nodded. Exactly. And that's why it hurts more. They didn't speak after that. Didn't apologize. Didn't ask if I was okay. They just left. The same way they always had quietly when the truth got too loud. That night I couldn't sleep. Their voices kept circling in my head. Too far. Still your brother. Unnecessary. But not once, we believe you. We're sorry. The ache in my chest had faded, but the one in my heart had settled deeper. Around midnight, I got a text from Dr. Hayes. How are you holding up? I stared at the screen for a long time, then typed back. They came. Said it's gone too far, still no apology. A few minutes later, she replied, some people need their world to stay neat and quiet. Even if it means erasing others to do it, then that's not your job anymore. I read it twice. 3 times because it was exactly what I needed. Not comfort, but release. I didn't owe them forgiveness or silence or the version of me that smiled through broken things just to keep the peace. I placed my phone down, and for the first time in weeks, I fell asleep without bracing for pain. The next morning, I opened my laptop, clicked into a blank document, stared at the cursor blinking, waiting. For years, I'd written charts, reports, prescriptions, always clinical, always precise. But this time I wrote for myself. I typed the whole story, from the dinner, to the kitchen, to the silence that followed. No softening, no edits, no protecting the people who never protected me. Each sentence felt like stitching a wound I hadn't let heal. I didn't name names, didn't lash out, but I told the truth in full. When I finished, I didn't post it yet. Just read it back to myself, out loud. The words sounded like me, not the version they preferred, not the daughter who stayed quiet, me. Melanie walked in, coffee in hand. What are you working on? I turned the screen toward her. Let her read. She didn't say much, just nodded. It's time, she said. People need to hear this. And for once I agreed. My finger hovered over the button, post. It seemed small, almost nothing, but it held everything. I took a breath, not shaky this time, then clicked. Just like that, my story was out in the world. No filters, no family edits, no spin. I didn't check the comments right away, didn't refresh the screen every 10 seconds. I let it breathe. Let me breathe. Melanie watched me from the kitchen table. How do you feel I thought about it? Not proud, not scared, just steady. Like I finally told the truth I said, and didn't flinch when I said it. My phone stayed quiet at first. Then it started. A message, then another, Then dozens more, from classmates, old friends, even a former patient. I went through something like this. Thank you for saying it. You just gave me courage I didn't have. I didn't expect it. The wave of strangers echoing pieces of my pain, but I read every word. Because this time, their silence wasn't protecting anyone. It was breaking, just like mine had. By evening, the post had thousands of views, hundreds of comments, some long, some just 2 words. Me too. I sat with that. Not the numbers, the echo, of voices that had been quiet for years, maybe forever now breaking open. One message stayed with me, from a woman named Grace. My sister did the same. Everyone believed her. No one believed me. Until now. I read it twice. Felt the weight behind each word. It wasn't just my story anymore. It was a window, a mirror, a match someone else could strike in their own dark room. Melanie sat beside me. Didn't speak. Just scrolled through the messages slowly, her eyes damp. You did this, she whispered. Not just for you. I nodded, because I knew this wasn't about revenge or proving anyone wrong. It was about being heard. And by being heard, making space for others to speak too. And in that space, something sacred was unfolding, truth without shame, pain without silence. The next morning, a new message sat at the top of my inbox. I almost deleted it. The name made my stomach tighten. Megan, Eric's girlfriend. I opened it. Hi, Linda. I read your post. I don't know if it's my place, but I believe you. I saw the way he talked to you. The way he talks to me too. My hands froze on the keyboard. She continued. He's never hit me. But the yelling, the gaslighting, the way I feel small around him, it's all real. I didn't realize how much until I read your words. Then the last line, I'm leaving him. I just wanted to say thank you for helping me see it clearly. I stared at the screen, heart pounding, not with fear, with something closer to freedom. For years, I'd thought my voice only protected me, but now I saw it could be a lifeline for someone else too. And in that moment, I didn't just feel brave, I felt useful. By noon, the phone calls started again, this time from cousins, family, friends, people I hadn't heard from in years. Some were gentle. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, we had no idea. Others were colder. You really think airing this online helps anyone? I didn't answer most of them, didn't explain or defend. I had said what I needed to say, and it was finally out there with or without their approval. Later that day, Melanie walked in holding her phone. Your aunt posted something. She turned the screen toward me. It was vague, but pointed. Family is sacred. Some people forget where they came from. I laughed. Not bitter, just tired. Let them talk, I said, because I'd spent a lifetime trying to keep peace in a war I didn't start. And now I wasn't playing that role anymore. They could whisper. They could twist it. But I wasn't shrinking again. Not for their comfort, not for their name, not even for blood. That evening, Melanie cooked dinner. Nothing fancy, just soup and toast. But it was warm and quiet and enough. We ate on the couch, a soft blanket over both our legs, the kind of silence that feels safe, not heavy. Afterward, she asked, "Do you miss them?" I didn't answer right away, because the truth was complicated. I missed the idea of them, the hope of who they could have been, but not who they were. Sometimes I said, but not enough to go back. Melanie nodded. Then she reached over and placed a small box in my hands. Open it, she said. Inside, a simple necklace, a tiny silver charm shaped like a rib. I smiled, felt tears form, but didn't look away. It's not broken, she said. It's strong, like you. I didn't say anything, just leaned in, rested my head on her shoulder, and breathed. Because family, I was starting to realize, isn't who shares your name. It's who shows up when everything else falls apart. A week later, I drove back to the house. Not for them, for me. Melanie offered to come. I said no. There are some doors you have to walk through alone. The street was quiet, same trimmed hedges, same white siding, but it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a shell I'd finally outgrown. I unlocked the door with my spare key, stepped into the silence. No one was there. They were avoiding me now, afraid of what the truth might spill if they looked me in the eye. I walked through each room, the kitchen still spotless, no trace of what happened, but I remembered. I packed my remaining things, clothes, books, a few framed photos, not of them of me. Near the stairs, I saw the old family portrait, all smiles, all lies. I took it down, not out of anger, but because I didn't belong in that frame anymore. I left the key on the counter, closed the door behind me. And this time it didn't feel like losing something. It felt like taking something back. 2 days later, the clinic held a staff meeting. Dr. Hayes pulled me aside beforehand. "We don't have to talk about it," she said, "but people know. And they're going to say something." I nodded. I was ready. The room was full nurses, techs, admin staff, people I'd worked beside for years. Dr. Hayes opened the meeting, talked about updates, schedule changes, then paused. Before we finished, she looked at me, then back to the team. "Some of you have seen the post Linda shared. Some of you may not have, but I want to say this clearly. We stand with her." No one spoke. No one looked away. She continued. "Our clinic believes in truth and in the strength it takes to tell it." Then she stepped back, and they clapped. Not loud, not performative, just real, supportive. Afterward, one of the nurses hugged me. "You made it easier for the rest of us," she whispered. "Thank you for going first." And in that moment, I realized something I hadn't felt in years: safe. That night, I walked home under a quiet sky, the air warm, the kind that lingers gently on your skin. I passed the bakery where I used to sit after long shifts, too tired to go home, too afraid of silence. This time, I didn't avoid the window. I looked in, saw a girl laughing over coffee, her hands covered in flour. And for a second, I felt like I was watching a version of myself that never had to carry what I did. But instead of grief, I felt something else. Gratitude. Not because it happened, but because I had survived it. And more, I'd spoken it. I got home, dropped my bag, and lit a small candle by the window. No reason, no ritual, just a quiet reminder that I was here, whole, healing, unashamed. Melanie looked up from the couch. "You okay?" I smiled. "I am. Not perfect, not finished, but finally enough." The bruises faded slowly. Yellow, then green, then gone. But healing wasn't just under my skin. It was in the quiet moments. Getting up without flinching, breathing without counting, eating a full meal without my stomach folding in fear. One morning I found myself humming, no reason, no song in mind, just a softness returning. Melanie noticed it too. "You're lighter," she said. I nodded. Didn't need to explain. Because healing isn't loud. It's not some grand epiphany. It's drinking coffee while it's still warm. It's sleeping through the night without waking from dreams you don't remember. It's choosing not to answer when they try to pull you back. One afternoon, I received another message from my mother. Just one line: "We miss you. Please come home." I stared at it, felt nothing rise, no anger, no ache, just clarity. "I already am home," I whispered to myself, then closed the message and let it go. Weeks passed. Autumn crept in cooler mornings, gold leaves gathering at the curb. One Sunday, Melanie suggested we host a small dinner. Just us. A few close friends. "No pressure," she said. "Just warmth." I hesitated. Family dinners used to mean tension behind smiles, forks scraping silence, waiting for something to break. But this felt different. So we cooked together, simple food, roasted vegetables, bread warm from the oven. Laughter filled the apartment before anyone even arrived. By 7 p.m., the table was full, voices layered over one another, stories, laughter, light. No one asked for perfection. No one looked away from hard things. They passed the dishes, refilled each other's cups, looked me in the eye, and saw the whole version, not the edited one. At one point, I stood back quietly watching them all, not blood, but chosen, not flawless, but safe. And in that moment, I realized this was the kind of table I'd been trying to earn my whole life. Turns out, I just had to build it myself. A few days later, I was invited to speak at a community panel breaking silence stories of survival. I almost said no, but something deep inside me said yes. The room wasn't large, maybe 30 people. Some survivors, some just listening. When it was my turn, I stood behind the mic, hands steady, voice clear. My name is Linda Matthews. A pause. And my brother broke 3 of my ribs. The words echoed softly. No gasps, no judgment, just attention. I told the story simply. No embellishments, no revenge, just facts and the cost of silence. People nodded. Some cried. Afterward, a teenage girl came up to me, eyes wide and unsure. "Thank you," she whispered. "I haven't told anyone yet, but now I think I can." I placed my hand over hers, didn't say much, because that moment wasn't about me anymore. It was about what happens when one person says the thing everyone else has been holding in. And this time, I wasn't just breaking silence, I was passing the courage forward. That night, I sat by the window with pen and paper, not a screen. There was no plan, no pressure, just the quiet urge to write something unfinished. So I wrote a letter to Eric, not to forgive, not to invite him back, just to say the things that no courtroom or post could ever hold. You hurt me. You lied about it. And still I carry your name like a bruise I didn't choose. I told him I wasn't broken, that I wouldn't be silent again, that love without safety is not love at all. And then at the bottom, you don't get to rewrite the story. I already did. I folded the page, placed it in a drawer. No stamp, no envelope, because some things aren't meant to be sent. They're meant to be written so you can let go of what never needed to be carried. A month passed. Life didn't change all at once. It unfolded quietly like breath returning after a long-held pause. I walked to work without looking over my shoulder. I laughed mid-sentence without wondering if I was too much. One afternoon at the clinic, I caught my reflection in the break room window. Same face, but steadier. I didn't look like someone who'd won. I looked like someone who had stopped trying to win people who never chose her. Later that evening, I found a voicemail from my father, his voice low, controlled. "We still think you handled this wrong, but I hope you're okay." I didn't call back, didn't need to, because I wasn't waiting anymore. Not for apologies, not for understanding. There was nothing left to prove. Not to him, not to Eric, not even to myself. I had spoken, stood up, healed out loud, and in doing so, I had already won something none of them could take my voice. It rained the next morning, soft, steady, the kind that makes the world feel clean again. I made tea, opened the window just enough to let the air in, no messages. No headlines, no demands, just stillness. I sat on the couch, blanket pulled over my knees, and realized something simple but enormous. I wasn't waiting for the past to make sense anymore. I wasn't replaying the night in the kitchen. I wasn't wishing for a different family. I wasn't holding my breath for someone to say sorry. The storm had come and passed, and here I was, not untouched but unburied. Outside, the leaves shimmered wet on the branches, not broken, just weathered. I sipped my tea, smiled to myself, and whispered into the quiet, "This is peace, not loud, not perfect, but mine." If this story touched something in you, a memory, a feeling, a truth you've carried, I invite you to share it. Not just with us, but with someone who might need to hear it too. And if you'd like to walk with us through more stories that speak softly but stay long, don't forget to subscribe. There is more to come, and you won't be alone.